Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, buna, privyet, and mabuhay. And Jean Dobre. It's really, really good to be with you again. And I know you'll be so happy you've joined us because we have a very cool guest with us today. And it's Judith Belmont, who's a retired psychotherapist and author of 11 self-help and mental health books. I'm so happy to have you with us, Judith. Welcome.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. Can you please tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay. I live in Florida and I am a retired psychotherapist. I do a little bit of mental health coaching. I have done a lot of training seminars and I actually do some online webinars. Um, but my focus has been in my professional life, aside from being a therapist, is writing books that can help people reach a lot more people than I could in my office. And so my latest book, which is 110 CBT Tips and Tools, is a book offering a lot of practical life skills, such as how to deal with depression, stress, anxiety, and how you can change your self-talk to actually change your life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And just for the people who may not be familiar with what CBT is, can you tell us?
Okay. CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. I'm going to put this book up over here. Um, and this book has like worksheets, handouts, mini lessons, mini quizzes. And basically, CBT is a very practical, hands-on approach that is widely adopted, and it offers skills of how you can reframe your attitude, reframe your perceptions, because a lot of times when people are unhappy, it's not really from the outside, it's from the inside and what we tell ourselves.
Yes.
And so, obviously there's some terrible things that happen in the outside world, um, but we have the ability to control our reactions to whatever comes our way. And CBT offers a lot of practical skills to do that.
Yes. This aspect of learning to change our thoughts so they're more empowering, more happiness promoting. I mean, it's such a critical skill because, I personally, in my experience, when I started to really practice being conscious of what I'm thinking and then changing my thoughts um, to be more in alignment with my values and goals in terms of wanting to feel more peaceful and happy, etc. I think that was the first time that I felt significant major difference in terms of my own wellness experience and that feeling of like I'm able to do something to actually take control of my wellness. It was so life-changing as an experience. And I also noticed, like in the more recent years, just I would say maybe within the last 4 to 5 years, I've been more hanging out with like spiritually oriented people and working on my own spiritual growth. And a lot of the tools and practices that I'm learning these days are focused on, sort of like helping you connect with your spiritual heart and just kind of tap into your sense of peace and so forth in that way. And one thing that I noticed was that it was really easy for me when I started learning these heart-centered practices to start experiencing the benefits of them and at the same time, other people, like my fellow classmates who are taking these same workshops and learning these same skills, were experiencing more struggle. And and I was like, huh. And it turned out it was because I had done so much training already in terms of learning to calm my thoughts, change my thoughts when I do have negative thoughts, that utilizing these more heart-centered tools, like there wasn't any conflict between what my heart wanted and what my mind was doing, or if there were times when that conflict seemed to emerge, I was able to, take positive steps to help calm my mind by, reframing my thoughts and so forth. But for my fellow classmates who didn't have these skills, it took them longer to experience the benefits of these heart-based techniques also. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
I,
Uh,
I have, I have a good visualization because that's one thing in my books. I use a lot of metaphors and visualizations or activities that you could actually kind of cement the learning. And we can do it right now. If
yeah,
you clasp your fingers,
yeah.
okay, I have my left thumb on top. Which thumb do you have?
Oh, well, I had my right one.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So you're right.
And then,
Okay. Now so now take your fingers away and put it the other way so that the other thumb is on top. How does
okay.
it feel?
Yeah, I mean, you do feel like there's something off, like
Right.
it's
A little
not
different.
regular.
So my
Yeah.
point is that the importance of flexible thinking, that for some people like you in your class, it was a no-brainer
Yeah.
that was it intuitive because you have intuitive sense of mindfulness and being able to experience where other people might not have that. So it's not that they can't do it, but it's going to be more comfortable. So
Yeah.
I used to use this with my clients all the time when they would say how hard change was, and I would show them this and they knew what that meant, that sometimes it feels a little bit difficult, but it's not wrong.
Yeah.
There's not one right or wrong way. And a lot of times people get impatient with themselves because, I see all my classmates being one way. Maybe they'll be seeing you and say, how come she can like incorporate it and it's such a struggle? Because we're all different, we're wired differently. And it shows the importance of a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. A
Yeah.
growth mindset is I'm going to try, I'm going to learn, I'm going to build on my experience. When a fixed mindset says, I can't do that or I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
And actually, studies has shown that the reason that more people are happy than not is not the possessions they have. It's not the successes, not saying that they're not good, all that's good, but it's if they have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Because a growth mindset allows for evolving, moving past your mistakes, moving past your limitations, and learning as you go. Whereas a fixed mindset is self-defining, that could be very self-limiting. Like, oh, I'm not good at that, or I'm a failure, or I goofed up and whatever.
Yes, indeed. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. Do you know, according to the research, this trait, a fixed mindset or growth mindset, is it sort of like a thing that we learn, or is it more like a personality
Well,
characteristic?
it's interesting you said that. For some people, it just seems to come more easily, but it's all something that we can learn and develop. It's not like, well, I don't have a growth mindset kind of, mental, acuity for that. It's all things that we can develop, and that's why I like CBT and practical oriented psychology, such as positive psychology, which offers skills on how to do it. Because how are you going to learn things if you hadn't been exposed to them before?
Right.
So, like I would tell my clients, when they would say, I can't do it, it's awful. I would say, talk to them about cognitive distortions. That's a hallmark of CBT, that if you are focused on fiction instead of fact, I can't do it. I should have known that. That's kind of stories you tell yourself. It's like a narrative versus I had a setback and now I'll move forward a little bit more wiser. That's more factual.
Mm,
So a lot of times we tell ourselves very self-limiting thoughts and we
yeah.
don't realize the cognitive distortion, such as if you say, I'm such an idiot, I'll never get it together because of, this mistake I made. You have all these cognitive distortions in those couple sentences. You're fortune telling. You're saying that I'll never get it together. You're labeling. That's another cognitive distortion. And it's not only what we do to ourselves, to other people. We might say, oh, my coworker's just lazy. So it reduces people to one dimension. So it's very important to look at things factually so you're not going to be so stressed out by things that are out of control in your head.
Yes.
So I'm concerned that she comes in often late from lunch versus she's so inconsiderate or she's so lazy. There's being specific instead of factual can help us in terms of our own self-talk, but it also can help us be more empathetic and compassionate to others
Yeah.
because we're not going to be focused on all or nothing ways of thinking.
Yes. There's a all or nothing ways of thinking. And then also just that, a lot of times we don't even realize that the way we are thinking is not factual, or that we are labeling people in a way that is maybe not entirely accurate, and that you're taking this whole person and just sticking this one label on them kind of
Right.
a thing.
People don't realize it's inaccurate at all. And
Yeah.
that's what CBT does,
Mm,
is it helps you separate fact from fiction. It
mm,
helps you separate feelings from thoughts. So like if you say to someone, or let's say you're thinking, I feel like he's putting me down. That's
mm,
actually not a feeling, that's a thought. A lot
yeah.
of times people confuse them. So how are you going to change your thoughts if you don't even know what they are? If you're
Yeah.
confused. So a way of teasing that out is I feel upset because I am thinking that he is putting me down or whatever. You
Yes.
separate because a lot of times people mix thoughts and feelings and they don't realize it. That's a skill you learn.
Yes. It's just the way the language um is sort of used in the common culture,
Right.
that it absolutely conflates. You're like, I feel like you're not respecting me, and
Exactly.
things like that. And it's like, no, those are not actually feelings, those are
Right.
thoughts.
Well, it's interesting you say about the our culture because just think of some songs that I grew up with. Um, like Ray Charles' song, I Can't Stop Loving You. That's an irrational song. I can't. It's like it's hard to stop loving you, but we as a, society often thinks in self-limiting ways.
Mm,
There's a lot of songs when you think, particularly certain genres of songs like country, is that you're thinking victim ways rather than victor ways.
mhm. Well, in the case of being like, I can't stop loving you, there's probably also this aspect of romanticizing the idea that I can't stop loving you. Like it's a really good thing that I can't
Right.
stop
But
loving
it's
you,
not. But
Yeah.
like, there was a song when I was growing up, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, You Make Me So Very Happy. And when I was
Mhm.
younger, and I was a teenager listening to it, I thought, wow, that's such a nice song and finding someone that makes you happy, whatever. And then I realized if someone can make you so very happy, they can also make you miserable. You
Yeah.
never want to put your happiness in someone else's hands. So
Yeah.
you can make me suicidal. You can make me anything. So I realized that actually was not a healthy song at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean it when you think like that, it's like you are uh giving your power away actually to
Actually,
whoever
yeah,
this other person is that is supposed to make you happy or supposed to, be able to make you sad or whatever else.
right.
And not only are you giving your power away, but again, like if you look at it from a factual perspective, research very clearly shows that it's not other people who are making you happy or sad or angry or anything really. It's your own thoughts and beliefs and
Exactly. So I don't mean to take the romance out of things, but just to realize that we are happy when we're with someone. You help me be happy considerably, but you make me happy. That's a little unhealthy because you can make me miserable too.
yeah,
And you don't want anybody to have that power. And we're not talking about criminal behavior and abuse. We're talking about in the realm of non-criminal, not abusive relationships. Obviously, there's such a thing as abuse, but that you actually can make someone,
yeah, I know,
harm.
but it is a very important thing to understand because even, in our everyday relationships, um, there are loving relationships, that are healthy relationships, but nonetheless, a lot of times when we end up in conflict, a lot of times it's because of this kind of attribution of responsibility to the other in terms of
Same.
you did this to make me angry, or you did this to make me upset. I mean, we especially, I've become more conscious of how we talk to our kids in terms of being like, don't make mommy, don't do that. You'll upset mommy, or you make mommy sad when you do that. You say things like that. And I've been noticing it more and more. And I'm like, you see, we are being taught this way of thinking from when we were tiny little
Right.
children, you know? So,
Exactly. So like you might be, people might say, she really stresses me out. That's actually irrational. It's not that's fiction because no one can change the neurons in your brain. So how do you rephrase it? That's called cognitive restructuring.
mhm,
That's a tip in my book, and the tip of cognitive behavior therapy is one of the hallmarks of cognitive behavior therapy is how do you rephrase it? It's not just not semantics, it's understanding that we're responsible. So instead of he stresses me out, I'm stressed when he says blank blank, or I feel stressed when I'm with him often. Maybe not 100% of the time. You can't say I'm always stressed out whenever I'm with them because maybe one out of 100 times you're not. So you have to watch that all or nothing self-talk
yeah.
because then you're going to feel more in control of your thoughts. When you're in control of your thoughts, you think in healthier ways and you're not going to be as angry or stressed.
Yes. Yes. And what you just said about like someone can't change your, um, I forget the
Neurons, no one can
neuron.
change the neurons
Yes,
in your brain.
exactly. That's a really excellent, I think, way something for us to remember. Actually, that's so true of other aspects of ourselves as well. That no, it's not like someone can, I mean, unless you're sitting in like a lab and somebody literally plugs you up with these electrodes and things, and then
Oh, that's
sense
different.
of
That's a physical kind
that's
of.
a completely different thing. But other than that, like no one can actually manipulate your body physiology and biology and so forth. It's like you doing it. Your own body is doing whatever it is doing to itself.
Right. I mean, you can think, when they say, an expression is, oh, she drives me crazy. No one can drive you anywhere unless you give them the keys.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That is so true. That is so true. I think, like for some people, that that it's like, what? I have to take all this responsibility for how I'm feeling. Uh, I went, I don't know, some people may feel challenged
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
that idea, because, it's like, to take all of that responsibility for how you think and how you feel and act for that matter, rather than like sometimes it's just so much easier to be like, no, you you are to blame for how I'm suffering and or otherwise not doing well, versus taking that responsibility on ourselves. Um, how do you think about this idea of taking responsibility for your own thoughts, feeling, and actions? I mean, especially if somebody is like, having these kinds of anxieties about, um, around taking that responsibility.
Well, I'm a very big proponent of taking responsibility. And when people spend a lot of time being bitter because they're into blaming, they're not going to be happy people. Happy
Mm,
people don't do that. Um, Now, we're talking again about not life-threatening situations and whatever. In general, the more forgiving you are, the more you don't focus on what other people should do, because when you get caught up in the shoulds, that's also another cognitive distortion. Oh, he shouldn't be that way. He should be more like me, or she should be more like him. And it just gets in the world of fantasy where it's just expectations and not reality.
yeah. Ah,
And a lot of times people blame others that it's not their fault because they don't want to feel that they're bad. I mean, they might overreact because of their own traumas or their own lack of self-esteem.
mm,
And they see their self-esteem is on the line.
yeah,
When you are self-loving
yeah,
and self-compassionate, you are also able to be more compassionate to others. I liken it like what the flight attendant says to people about, if in case of an emergency, put the mask on yourself before you help young children. A lot of times people want to skip that step, you know,
yeah,
want to like be helpers and they want to do. You need to really take care of yourself too, so that you can be in the right mindset, so that you can be of help to others.
yes,
Sometimes people, when I would talk to clients about nurturing themselves, their own self-care, they felt like that's being selfish.
yeah,
But that's not being selfish, because
yeah,
what's going to happen is if you're not happy, if you feel burdened by expectations of others and yourself, you're
yeah,
going to end up not being as loving and forgiving to others either.
right. Yeah, this whole thing about expectations, it's so also like one of those things that I feel like we just get trained into um, normalizing, in that it just feels like such a normal aspect of how people live their lives that you don't even question it. And I think maybe there's also like cultural aspects to that where, like I know, for example, in my Indian Pakistani culture, in some ways, because we are a more collectivistic culture, and there's less emphasis on, individual identity and uh, being concerned about your individual self, is just less of a priority. But so what that does mean is that there's like so many expectations in terms of, I mean, everyone has a role in society, in your family, whatever structures that you're a part of. You have a role, you have a place, and there are all kinds of expectations that you fulfill that role and you stay in your place. Because to challenge any of those expectations, to try and step out of that place, it not only creates change for you, but it creates change for everyone around you. And not everyone's inclined to think that that kind of change is good. In fact, it's perceived as chaos. It's perceived as you are disturbing the social order, you're disturbing the family peace or whatever. And so there's like just a lot of expectations. Like it's like so normal for my mom even now to say things like, well, Samia, you are the elder daughter of the house, so you have to be like the little mommy of the family. So if I'm sick, you are the one who has to, make sure there's food ready and that you're looking after and making sure your dad's okay, and like all these different things. And not that I'm opposed to doing this or that to help anyone in my family. But, I have come to recognize that these kinds of expectations, that I need to, um, like, I want to be able to choose and say, yes, I'm going to choose to do this and this and this because I want to do it and it's something I can do and it makes me feel good doing. And if there is something that doesn't make me feel good, or, I feel like I can't do it for some other reason, then I want to be able to say no. And I don't want it to become like this huge big deal that I said no, because it, like in my, like my mom, she's probably the most traditional among us in my family. And, for her, doing things in the traditional way is very important. And so like when I say no, for her it's not just, oh, Samia said no. No, it's like, no, you're breaking tradition, you're doing, and in that there's something very wrong, and you're upsetting me, your mom, by doing this. And so it can become like this whole big thing.
Totally.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and just like again, like the normalization of that, because she grew up her entire life with that kind of thinking.
She knows.
Yeah,
And in her mind, it's probably wrong to be any other way.
yeah, right.
There's costs to that too, because it sort of chooses for others.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in general, I focus on developing assertive skills,
Mm-hmm.
which are I statements, such as I don't feel comfortable with that. A
Mm-hmm.
you statement, which would be more aggressive or setting expectations on others, is you should be doing that.
Uh-huh.
And assertiveness is kind of the hallmark of healthy communication. But when you're trained that that's wrong, that's tough. I remember uh, some of my clients would not want to use the word I. When I would try to teach them about I statements, they said, no, that's wrong because that's being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were taught in their church, you don't use the word I, you use we or something. Because if you talk about I, you're just focusing on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like there's something really bad about that. So what I do is I try to help people through my books or my coaching or when I was a therapist, is to give people permission to feel.
Mm,
Way, I'll never forget this woman who, had a few kids of her own, and she was maybe in her 40s or early 50s, and I she explained how she was feeling, and I validated it. And
mm,
she looked at me through her tears, and she says, "You mean I have a right to feel that way?" And it was very poignant because she had grown up not being able to own her feelings and was told that they were wrong. Of
yeah,
course, what's that going to do in raising her children?
yeah,
Because this is sort of like the way the universe goes. And
yeah,
by me giving her permission to feel her feelings. Now,
mm,
that doesn't mean I didn't try to help her think more rationally so
yeah,
that she could change her feelings, but
yeah,
I can't change anybody's thoughts or feelings.
yeah,
But I gave her permission that that was okay,
yeah,
that her needs were as important, and she has a right to any feelings that she has. This is not a judgment.
yeah.
Obviously, if there's behaviors that infringe on others and there's criminal activity or whatever, no, that's not good. But we're talking about owning your feelings.
Yeah, it's just, it's just, because I've actually lived in India, Pakistan for a few years, even in the Middle East. And now, of course, now I'm here living in America. So I've had experiences, both in the context of being part of those more collectivistic cultures in Asia and the more individualistic culture that predominates here in America. And I personally have come to this point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I can see the pros and cons in both. And I love being able to sort of choose for myself where I
Mhm.
find the balance for myself. Because, I see over here, a lot of times people in their quest for independence and asserting their individual rights and so forth, they can go too far in terms of themselves ending up in a situation where they're feeling lonely, they're feeling disconnected, they don't have enough of a support system around them anymore, because they've become isolated in this quest to, just pursue their whatever their individually oriented goals and so forth are. And even those in that context, a lot of times they're not goals that they have really consciously chosen for themselves. They're on this like track of societally defined success path and things like that.
That there is a kind of a misperception that when you have self-growth, it has more to do about you than with others. But actually, the best way to grow is through connections.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a proponent of isolating yourselves to grow, and not that you can't have alone time. That's a normal thing. There's nothing wrong with alone time, but people actually evolve and grow often through relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
relationships are actually very, very important. It's not like you're selling out because you're needy or you need help from others.
Yeah. No, no, please tell me more about that because relationships, I mean, all of life in some ways, it's about um, being in relationship, whether it's with yourself, it's with other people, but also our relationship with the environment and so forth. And in some, I mean, we cannot really exist in a bubble. I mean, even just the way that our own individual self is. It's like there's so many different parts that are in relationship with each other that relate to each other in specific ways that make us the unified person or our sense of unified self that we experience. So it's like in some ways, it it's like relationships are integral to every aspect of our being and experience, you know?
These are social animals.
Yeah,
They're social. It's important to be true to yourself, but within a context, because otherwise you could get very lonely and
yeah,
very isolated.
yes,
And having relationships with others, I mean, as long as they're healthy, there's a lot of toxic relationships. That's not necessarily going to help you grow.
yeah,
But in the terms of relationships that encourage your growth,
hmm,
um, I think is really vital to feeling good about yourself.
yeah,
That's why having friendships and having relationships with, family, friends, being open to people, open to meeting new people is so important because that is very energizing for us
yes,
to be able to evolve as people that we are. Now, some people need it more than others. Some people want it more than others. But I've never yet met anybody who does better closing themselves off from close relationships. I think those people are often the um, more sad,
hmm,
feeling more isolated or lonely.
yeah. You know, as you were talking, a couple of movies that I've watched recently sort of popped into my mind because they sort of these movies were sort of exploring these tensions that can occur for people in the context of so the movie I was actually watching just last night was about this couple and um, at some point the hero gets offered a job that's out of state. And the heroine, of course, has her own career and profession where they are. And then there's this like whole tension about, oh, will he take the job? Won't he take the job? What will it mean for the relationship? And the thing that like I mean, obviously the movie is just made for entertainment purposes. And what they did was like in some ways I feel like the storyline just took an easy way out in the sense that they had a fight with each other about him not um, being upfront with her about this job opportunity that he got. And she was like, just go ahead, just take this job opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And they have a fight, and he takes the job opportunity, and then they're separated for like several months or whatever. And then his project finishes a few months later. And in that meantime, yeah, she misses him, he misses her. And then he comes back and he's like, oh, I missed us and I love you and I want it to be together. And then they just get back together. But I'm like, they didn't address the issue of what if it happens again? What if he gets another job opportunity that's out of state? How are they going to resolve it? They never talk about it. They just, took just they just literally had a fight with each other, broke up. He went off, realized, oh, we miss each other, and then just got back together without talking through, well, what about the next time he has to go out of state for many months on these kind of job opportunities. So it's sort of like, I was thinking about it also in the context of like, that idea of feeling selfish or feeling like you're sacrificing something, because it's like the way that they showed his internal dialogue was, if I don't take this opportunity, it's like I'm sacrificing my dream, and I'm sacrificing. my own career and this and that to be with this person. But if I take the job opportunity, then I'm sacrificing the relationship. And so I just,
Both situations, it doesn't have to be one or another.
yeah.
Hopefully it can all like work together.
But
People
how
make
would,
it work
what would
together.
be a
There's a lot of
healthier way? Yeah, what would be a healthier way to think in a situation like this?
without having seen the movie, I don't know, but I would say that, if he went away to for something, you still can keep the relationship alive through video and, your, you know, connectedness, um, and talk about it, so of course in movies they don't usually have that much in-depth conversation about that kind of stuff. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of couples do face that. Is like, someone has to put their career on a back burner for the other person, particularly if they want family. And it takes a lot of conversation and working together and compromise.
Mhm. So in this context, when you think about compromise, like a very common notion, understanding around compromise is this idea of you get some of what you want, I get some of what I want, but ultimately no one's really, truly, completely happy because no one gets everything they want. And that, I mean, is that the best we can do? Or is there an even better way for us to think about how we can make choices in our lives?
Well, if you actually compromise, you focus on what are the benefits of that synergy of compromise instead of what you're missing.
Hmm.
So, okay, let's say you get married and you say, well, I'm missing out on all the people I could have met. Well, you make your decision that this is the best decision because I want also that sense of commitment and deeper love and deeper connection. Life is full of alternatives and choices and disappointments, but it doesn't mean you're not going to be happy. Happiness is partly a choice. We might be wired, some people are wired more to be happy, but you know, you can help it along a lot by having an even mind and realizing you're not going to get everything you want because some of those things might really not turn out so great anyway. A lot of times people get what they want and it doesn't turn out so great. I
Yeah.
think the better view is to find the silver linings in what you have and focus on, just think of like a bagel or
Hmm.
like a donut with a hole in it. Do
Yeah.
you focus on the whole, WHOLE, the whole thing, or do you focus on the little hole in the middle, what's missing? Some
Yeah.
people focus more on what's missing in their lives, and when some people are more, I mean, I guess I would use the term grateful, that they look for things to feel grateful for. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're grateful for everything. There's some things you wish never would happen, but even with the mess, you can find gratitude. And that's why I like the image of Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving reminds us how important it is to be thankful. But people who don't incorporate gratitude practice or a sense of gratitude in their daily lives are not going to be happy people.
Mm.
People who are going to be more bitter over things that aren't right versus better because they focused on what is going right. And
Right.
so I see Thanksgiving as a symbolic, uh, a symbolic holiday of the importance of incorporating gratitude in our life. Just
Yeah.
even thinking of, every day I'm going to think of three new things I'm grateful for. So you can't cop out and say, I'm thankful for my job, my kids, whatever. It's like, I'm thankful that I had a nice walk with my daughter, or like, and like think of three new things every day. And that already can boost your mood.
Yes. Yes. I was reading a study that, gratitude is the fastest way to feeling happy. It's
Mhm.
like you think grateful thoughts, and it's like the fastest way you can get to feeling happy.
True, but that doesn't mean you want to force gratitude.
Yeah.
If you're really not grateful and life has thrown you a big curveball in terms of loss or your health or the health of, loved ones, sometimes you can't be grateful for everything, but you can still try to find some bless in the mess.
Uh-huh. Yes, and sometimes you just need to take a little time to grieve or be sad or whatever it is that you're feeling, and then come back to that search for, okay, where is the little blessing I can find in even this situation, as it were. Mm, yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else that you would love to share with our audience? Judith, I think we are going to start wrapping up for today.
I think we covered a lot of things.
Yes.
I hope that I imparted some enthusiasm for how CBT can really change your mind to change your life. And you don't necessarily need to have any deficits in order to improve. We can all use an emotional wellness tune-up
Yeah.
and learning some practical skills and how to deal with everyday life challenges is very doable. And a lot of times it's things that we're not given in terms of our upbringing. We, you could be raised by very well-meaning parents who just don't know these things. And so it's nice that we have resources that we can learn to grow and thrive and to be the best you that you can be.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And for sure, everything that you shared today, I so enjoyed learning with you and from you. And you have made me more enthusiastic about reviewing some of the CBT tools and techniques that I've learned in the past also, and just utilizing them more in a conscious way in my life. So thank you so much, Judith. And
Thank
for
you for
our
having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
me too. And for our audience, my last reminder is to just please make sure you check the show notes, because we will be sharing Judith's links in there so you can connect with her and just continue to learn with her and get the help and support that you need whenever you're ready for it. So until we connect next time, I wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.